how to really work fast inside Lightroom Classic with the Loupedeck Plus. I really love to work with hardware devices to control software, and the Loupedeck Plus is an extraordinary nice thing to work inside Lightroom Classic. And how you can work it with it and how I set up my Loupedeck Plus for a creative and fast workflow inside Lightroom Classic is the topic of this tutorial video right now. So let's get started. So here you see I have the Loupedeck Plus in front of my Wacom Cintiq 24 Pro, and I would definitely say the Loupedeck Plus is for a Lightroom Classic workflow better, or it's better for your workflow in general than a graphic tablet. For retouching, for anything in detail, yes, for sure, the Cintiq or Intuos tablet is better, but for a workflow inside Lightroom, the Loupedeck Plus, and I really mean the Loupedeck Plus, is the best choice to work fast. And right now I want to demonstrate to you how you can work with the Loupedeck Plus here inside Lightroom and what you can do with it. So I will just go to the develop module for this image right now. I can put down my pen for the tablet, and now you can just go with this control dial to the right to the next image, or you can go back to the left with this. Over here you have your hardware dials. So for example, if I want to bring down the highlights, I can just rotate on this knob here for the highlights. I can bring up the shadows over there, and with the brightness or with the exposure I can control the exposure. Then for sure I can bring in some vibrancy if I want to. And the cool thing is I can also copy the settings, go to the next and just paste the settings over there. And that's the cool thing, you can just work on this device without touching one of the sliders over there, and you can even go in and rotate or control more sliders simultaneously. So if I want, I just will reset this with Fn undo, and this should be resetted. I'll do it in this way. So if I want to create it simultaneously, I can bring up the shadows and simultaneously bring down the highlights like this, then go up a little bit with the exposure and even bring in some vibrance like so. And so I can work without going with the mouse or with the tablet to the slider and just say, okay, a little bit more brightness, a little bit on the highlights and shadows, and maybe there on the vibrance. And so you can work really, really fast. And that's the cool thing. But you also have to know that the standard settings, the default settings of the Loupedeck are okay-ish, but I tweaked it a little bit so I can work really fast inside Lightroom. And now I want to demonstrate how you can set up your Loupedeck Plus for your work inside Lightroom Classic as well. And I will also provide you in the comments below or in the description below a link to my Loupedeck Plus settings. So let's see what I have done. So Loupedeck is here inside the menu bar on the Mac or down on Windows in the next to the watch, and there you can open the Loupedeck setup. And now you see that's the Loupedeck setup, and I will hide Lightroom and Photoshop for right now. And here inside the in the Loupedeck setup, you have to control that or check that the device is active. So in my case, the Loupedeck Plus. And here the application should also be the right application. So Lightroom Classic. And now there are some modes. So you have the library mode. Now you can set up everything for the library as you want to set it up. And the develop mode. And inside the develop mode, you have some tabs where you can also control how the Loupedeck will control Lightroom's develop module. So what I have done, or how to set up in general the dials, I go to the library and here I press on the control dial. And now you see the control dial is active, and with the rotation of the control dial, I'm moving to the next and to the previous photo. And when I press it down, the control dial, I have the B key. Why the B key? Because then I can add the image to the target collection, which is really, really handy to have it right at the control dial. Then I close out of this one, And other settings I've tweaked are the L1 to L3 keys. So the L1 key is the grid view, the L2 key is the loop view, and the L3 key is the switch from the model library to the develop model. So I can fast switch from the library to the develop model just by pressing on the L3 key. So that's really, really handy. On the top you have the C keys. So everywhere you have a C on the Loupedeck, you can control what it's doing. So C1 and C2 is working with flag. So pick or unpick, and reject or unreject is the C1 and the C2 key. So just for reference, this here is the C1 key, C2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. And I will just switch to the super source so you see both of them simultaneously. So when I want to set up auto tone, I can press on the C3 key over here. Auto white balance is C4. Here I can go to deselect others. So if I have more images selected at once, I just select the most selected image. That's the shortcut Command Shift D, deselect others. And the C6 is as well as the control dial, it's B, so add to the target collection. So let's see how this is in Lightroom Classic. So first of all, I'm switching out because I'm right now inside the develop model. So L3 to switch over to the library. And now I can go to L1, I have the grid view, L2 is the loop view. So here I can switch from the different views to another. Here, as mentioned before, switching from the library to the develop model. With the control dial, I can rotate over there and just say, okay, I want this image over there. And then I go to the develop model, just brighten up the shadows and bring down the highlights and the exposure as well. And now I can control everything here inside the develop model. If I want to reset something I've done, I can just press, for example, on the exposure, and then I will reset the exposure or bring it up again. So I have more exposure on this image, which is really, really handy. If I want to copy this, I press on the develop copy settings button here on the copy button. I do it more often than once because then it's better, I found out. So I can just paste the settings over the images over there, like so. And now I have the settings on this image. I can go back to the library and here I see the images from here to there. And when I press on N, you see I have all these images, just set it up in the correct way. Just as a small side note, if you are inside the library model, you can also work with the keys and with the knobs and the control dial, but it's slower. So when I now go in and change the exposure, you see it's working, but you don't have the possibility to control it in a perfect way. So I always go to the develop model, and here inside the develop model I can just throw in the exposure as much as I wanted to. As a side note, again, I have not sync active, I have auto sync active. And so all the settings I apply will automatically get applied to all the other images. So I will reset the temperature and tint. Okay, now I'm back in the library. I go to the grid view and you see that the most selected image is right now this image. And with the C5, I can just select this one image and all the other images that were selected before are right now deselected. So D5 is really, really handy. The C6 and the quick dial to press down will add the images to the quick collection. So this is this over there. Now I will go back again to the folder. And right now I want to change the auto tone of this image. So I go inside the develop model and just can press on the C3, and C3 will automatically adjust the highlights. So everything in the tones and also in the basic panel. So that's an option for a quick start is the C3. I can undo this and I want just go a little bit with the exposure and the shadows. And C4 is the auto white balance. So just by pressing on C4, you can auto white balance your image. So right now I go to the copy as mentioned before, I press it a few times, go to the next image, just paste the settings over there, and that's totally fine. So if I'm right now inside the develop module, I can cut the image as well. So for this I can go to the crop overlay over there, or I can just press the L1 key, and here I'm inside the crop. I will change the overlay to a standard overlay like this. And with the D1 key, you can size the crop, and with the cursor keys, you can just bring it down a little bit like so, maybe a little bit bigger and to the right. And then you can just press on the control dial or again on the L1 key. So that's really fast as well. Okay, now I go back to the develop, from the develop model back to the library. And here I'm inside the library, and now I can, for example, also go with the keyboard, with the cursor keys upwards a little bit, just to these images over there. And now I want to select these images like this. Just press on one of them, go to the develop model and bring up the shadows a little bit, also the highlights a little bit. And because I have auto sync active, I will automatically apply all these settings to all of these images simultaneously. Now I bring down the highlights a little bit and bring up a little bit more of the exposure, and just go to the other images like this and just check if the exposure is right. And yeah, I would say that's right now. Perfect. So L3, back to the library. Here I have some images to tweak, so just select them, L3, bring up the shadows and the highlights, maybe down a little bit of the, so bring up the shadows, the highlights down and the exposure up a little bit, and everything is here ready to work. Perfect. So now I just go in and go over to these images with the blue gene. So from here to here, L3 again, then I will go into some image to see, like this one, bring up the shadows again, maybe a little bit on the highlights or on the exposure, not too much, because when I press the N key, you will see after Lightroom generates the previews that I have some lighter images over there and some darker images over there. So I don't want to overdo the editing. Okay, so I will just select this image, go to the develop module, and now with the C5, I have just narrowed down to the image I have in view, the most selected image right now. And now I can go to the hue, saturation or luma or luminance. And when I'm pressing on the hue, you will see that Lightroom switches to hue like this, to saturation like this, and to luminance like this over there. And when I now want to change a little bit on the saturation of the skin tones, I can go with these 3 dials and bring them down a little bit. So I can move the 3 dials simultaneously, which is really, really handy. If I want to change the hue of the blues, I can just go to the hue and just take the blue tones like this and bring it, for example, over to the greens again. If this is not what I want to do, I can just press on these keys and just reset the sliders and maybe bring it up a little bit over there. Then I go to saturation and bring in a little bit more of the saturation over here. And if I want to darken this, I can also go in and darken the color of the blue jeans as well. If I want to see a before and after, I have the before and after button over there. And when I press on it, then you see that's the before on the left and the after here on the right, which is really, really handy. And when I'm right, I can hold down the FN key and press before and after. And now I have the big before and after. So that's the before right now, and that's the after. And so I can toggle really, really fast between these two. And when I want to change the saturation for the skin tones, I can go up a little bit, FN before and after. And now I can switch really, really fast. The screen mode is in my case to zoom in, and with the FN and screen mode key, oh, I thought I had the full screen, but right now I think I don't have the full screen. Maybe in the library module. So I will go to the library and check here the full screen. Yes, in the library the screen mode is for full screen, so I will see the image really, really big. So that's also quite handy. If you want to select some images or mark them, as mentioned before, you can go, for example, here in to the L2 and just press on the C1. So this image is right now flagged. And then I can go here in and say, okay, this is flagged as well. Flagged. Here I want to brighten up the image a little bit. So I go to the develop model with the L3 back out of the develop model. This is also an L. Maybe this is something to reject. Then I press the C2 key over there. And so I can go through all of my images and just select them with the C1 and deselect or reject them with the C2 key. And I can work really, really fast. I really love to work in this way. And then over there, I just go to the grid again. And the Loupedeck also has a keyboard mode, because right now the keys over there are for rating. So I can set stars from 1 star to 5 stars, like this. I will do it a little bit bigger so you will see it. So here are the stars, but I can switch from the stars also to the colors. So when I now press on the green button, I have the green button, or I have set it up in the green way, or yellow, or I can bring back the colors all together. And when I want to go to the Shift, Control, Command, Alt and Tab keys, I can hold down Fn and press on this one. Now I'm activating the keyboard mode. And when I now hold down the Shift key and go to the right, I can select all of these images. And then with the C5, as mentioned before, I can unselect the images. So I will select all of these images, just press on this one. I will stay in this view, go to the L3. So I'm inside the develop module, and now I can bring up the highlights and the shadows just a little bit. Maybe the exposure up and the highlights just a little bit. But maybe in this case, I will go down with the exposure and even go up with the highlights. So I will just concentrate on the highlights of these images so that I have the highlights over there. And because now all images are selected, I will go to C5 and now press on the C1 key. So I have just this one image selected, also this one. I can go back a little bit and just select this image, for example, with the C1 key. And when I now want to crop, I can go to the L1 and just crop in a little bit like this and bring it up. I can for sure go in and go with the mouse on the with the pen or with the mouse in a classical way. Now develop module activated again by pressing on the control dial, and so everything is fine right now. There's also a custom mode, so all of the other keys can be, or all of the keys have a second possibility to work with, but I will mostly stay out of the custom mode. But right now I will demonstrate what the custom mode can do. So I switch back to the control surface of the Loupedeck and I go into the develop mode. And when you now press on the custom key, you see they're getting orange, and you can create or set up every key you want to set up. For example, in my case, I have contrast. That's over here. Contrast is in my case for the sharpening the mask. Control, clarity is the radius, and exposure is the amount of sharpening. So if I want to sharpen here inside Lightroom, I'm switching to the custom mode, so the light gets lighted up. And then I can go in and just say, okay, I'm in the custom mode. I now want to go in with the masking. And I just want to have a bigger radius like this and a little bit more of a sharpening amount, and the details I will bring down. And so I can work with the sharpening as well. But you can also go out of the custom mode, and the D1 and the D2 keys are also free to work with. So I will stay in this view right now and close this over here. Go out of the custom mode, and now I can press on the D1, and D1 in my case is texture, and when I'm pressing on the D1 key, then I will reset the texture. and the D2 key over there is noise reduction. And if you're working on a reportage or a wedding or so, you have different sets or settings, camera settings through the day, and then you can dial in the texture with the D1 key and bring the noise level down with the D2 key, and so you can really fast go through the images and work with them, and that's really nice. Okay, and then there are some other settings, and the cool thing is you can also save these settings and import them. And if you want to have my settings, I will demonstrate how you can save them or save yours and import mine or import my settings. So you go, I will close Lightroom for a short moment. You go to the icon on the left, go to Profile, double check that you're here with the Loupedeck settings, and then you go to Profile as mentioned before, and here you can export the settings, and I exported my settings before. These are these settings over there, and if you want to have my settings, you can import the settings with this button and just go in and import this zip you can download in the description below. It's important or to note that you just can export, I will demonstrate it right now, just can export one setting. So I have in my Lightroom Classic MD Loupedeck settings just the Lightroom Classic settings included. So if you have some other settings, for example for Photoshop or Premiere Pro, these settings won't come with this import, with this new import and with this preset. So I will cancel out of this. As mentioned before, just import the settings if you want to have them. Okay, so that's everything to know with this. Just a small tip is the following. If you want to buy the Loupedeck or the Loupedeck Plus, the Loupedeck CT, the Loupedeck Live, you can use the code MartinD10 and you get 10% off of your order. So MartinD10 to get 10% off if you order the Loupedeck on the English Loupedeck site directly out of the shop. So that's a good thing to start. Okay, so then I will go back to Lightroom again and just develop some of the upcoming images. So I will press over here, go inside, bring up the shadows and the highlights, maybe a little bit more vibrance on this image, like this. I can also go with the noise reduction over there. Then I will press on the copy button and paste this over here, paste this there as well, maybe a little bit more exposure, go over there. Then you can press and hold the FN key and just go to paste, because then you paste the previous settings. That's also really, really handy if you just make some tweaks like here for the upcoming images. You can say, okay, that's fine, maybe the shadows up a little bit more. In this case, a little bit of texture. And I don't need to copy, I just go to the next one, FN paste, and just insert the images over here, or the settings over here as well. So just go in and paste it. There I need a little bit more temperature, so tweak it a little bit over there, like so. Now I go to the copy and paste it here again, paste it over there, and paste it over there. And because I'm right now in the keyboard mode, I can also select with the Shift key the images to the left and maybe bring in a little bit more of the warmth, like so. Lighten the image, bring down the highlights and bring in a little bit more of the blacks. And then I can go to L3, press on the N key and also on the tab right here to bring or to hide the tools on the left and on the right. And now I see I have the images over there. And the three images here in the front need a little bit more warmth. So I will deselect this image and this image, go back to the develop module, and now I can bring in a little bit more of the warmth as well. Okay, so next image, let's see how much information there's in the sky. Not so much, so highlights down a little bit and up over there. A little bit more on the vibrance. Just copy it, C1 to flag it as a pick and just paste the settings. I can go with the Shift to the right, paste the settings to all of these images at once, go to the next image over there with the Shift key, just select a few of the images, bring it in a little bit warmer, lighter blacks down, perfect. Then here I will go with the exposure up a little bit, also with the blacks, like so, more on the vibrance. That's totally fine. Maybe a little bit warmer with this key over there. I can all of the time go with a press and reset the image. If I want to bring down the saturation of the blues, I can go to saturation and just bring down the saturation of the blues from the background a little bit, like so. Or I can also go to hue and just swing the blues a little bit more to the left, like so. Then I can bring up the saturation again. So I have a blue, cooler background and the warmth in the foreground. So here I can work really, really nice with the settings. Okay, and so I can work on just a small thing. If you are working with the flags, which I would definitely recommend, you have the flag for flag this image, or unflag, remove the flag and reject, and yeah, just work with the flags. And if you have or hold down the FN key and press C1, then you will just see the flagged images. And in this case, I will also see the rejected images I just saw right now. So FN C1 normally will just bring up the custom filter for flags, and FN C2 will just bring up the rejected images. So this is also quite handy if you want to work fast. The same is true when I switch out of the keyboard mode and go to the colors. So I'm now using colors, and I have a color over here, a color over here, and a color over here. Here should be a color. I can go with FN and the color label, and then I just see the green colors selected, FN color label again. And the same is true with the star ratings, FN1. I see all my one-star rated images because I rate when I'm shooting in the camera. And so I have all the stars I decided while shooting directly on the camera. So that's also quite handy. Yeah. And then there are a lot of other tools or a lot of other tips to do with the Loupedeck Plus. But I think if you're working, or if you start working with the Loupedeck, then you will see that you will improve your speed, your editing speed fastly. So trust me, go with the Loupedeck Plus, because then you can work blind. You don't need to look on the controls or on the display like at the Loupedeck CT and at the Loupedeck Live. I'm totally fell in love with the Loupedeck Plus, I would say months or even years ago. Yes, definitely years ago. And it's a tool I don't want to miss in the work or in my work inside of Lightroom Classic, because it's unbelievable, really unbelievable. So go to the Loupedeck site, loupedeck.com. I will insert the link somewhere for sure in the description. Use the code MartinD10, and then you can check out your Loupedeck and become faster than ever before. So have fun with the Loupedeck, and we will see us in the next video. Oh, one small addition. If you like this video, give it a like, please. If you're not a subscriber, press on the subscribe button and ring the bell. And if you have any questions or suggestions for future tutorials, future videos, just type inside the comments, and just go over my website martindörsch.com and to the courses, because I have courses on the Lightroom Classic workflow, for example, and then you can see my Lightroom Classic workflow to become faster and work more efficient inside your Lightroom Classic. So that was a lot, and I will say we will see us in the next video. See ya!